remember bending down and saying to Mandy, would you like to be in a movie, in a rather patronizing way? And she looked at me somewhat deadpan and nodded. And so I arranged that she should come down. And one of my memories is to remember her walking away, holding her mother's hand, and seeing a little skip at that moment, which really should have warned me that I was handling an extraordinary child. One of our first ideas was that we should test a number of children who are actually deaf and dumb, and that didn't come to anything for a very sad reason. It's because that people who are deaf pretend to understand when they don't. And I found it really awfully difficult to communicate with children who obviously were trying to, understand and couldn't.
I was invited to go along for the test, which was, I don't know how Sandy remembers it, but a totally terrifying experience for me, not because of actually being there or the people that I was working with, but being the scene that they chose, which was the build-up to the scream, the first sound that issued from the child's mouth. There was obviously quite a bit of dramatic feeling building up in the background, but when it came to it, I couldn't scream. And I opened my mouth and out came this sort of rather feeble ah or something, and Sandy very definitely wanted a full-powered scream. So he screamed. Now, I came from a very calm and quiet, comfortable suburban background. I was the only dramatic one, I'm sure, in the family, and whenever I showed that, it was squashed family. So imagine suddenly being confronted with this great, big gentleman screaming, and I screamed, and that was it. I mean, that was obviously what he wanted to create, but I mean, the shock tactic was just amazing.
Mandy played this scene, and what happened on the floor is something I always remember. On the studio floor, there are silences of different kinds. There are silences that you get when people aren't talking or whispering, not, in the camera, the microphone can't pick it up. Or there's the moment in which people are standing absolutely still. But then there's a third kind of silences when people are holding their breath. Mandy's performance was so astonishing that the unit was struck rigid, holding its breath with this electrifying silence on the floor. And I was in tears. Dougie Slocum, the cameraman, was in tears, and both of us afterwards, you cancel the rest, she's it.
No, dear, you're not feeling it. Again. That's it, Mandy. Feel it. Now, again. That's it, Mandy. Feel your voice. Got it. Keep it going. That's right. That's right. Come on. Now you've got it.
I always liked the child's point of view. And I think children, not only are children great actors, but in a curious and inverse sense, great actors are children. And I've learned more about working with adult actors from having worked with children.
The goods are lying at Customs House Dock, berth 17. Checked and crated, ready for shipment. Mendy plumbing and heating apparatus, some timber, a deep freeze, a variety of materials, all extremely valuable. Yes. So I've been instructed to make certain that the ship is perfectly sound.
But I think it is, on the whole, the least successful of the films that I made at Ealing Studios. Of course, it's a personal favorite of mine, but for the wrong reason. It's because it was my own original story, and it is very much about me, because let's not get too academic about it, and let's not so deconstruct it, but the story of the American who is at the an executive in industry, and the story of the wee boy who's mucking about on the Clyde. Both of them are myself. I had reached by that stage when I was very much in the higher brackets of power in the movie business. And at the same time, I was remembering my childhood on Clydeside and in the Outer Hebrides.
What's he doing that for?
Radar.
What do you mean, radar?
If it plops, we're okay. But if it rattles...
If it rattles, what?
Then we'll know we've made a mistake.
Alec's first suggestion for it was that he should play as a spastic. And in my office, he gave an imitation of a cripple here, which was really gruesome, horrendously funny, but stomach-turning in its effect. So we had to say, no, I'm sorry, Sir Michael Balcom will never stand for that. So Alec got rather annoyed, sulked for a little bit, and went away and looked out of the window. And when I went on talking about the script, he was snipping away with a pair of scissors, and he made some paper teeth, which he stuck in, and turned round and grinned at me.
Mrs. Wilberforce,
Yes?
I understand you have rooms to let.
He had decided that his second choice, was to play it as an imitation of a friend of ours, the late Kenneth Tynan, who was a friend of Alex and a friend of mine. And that's what it was. I mean, the mannerisms of these false teeth and these lank, fair hair, and the long scarf that he keeps training on, and the habit of smoking a cigarette. All of those are imitations of Kenneth Tynan, slightly, more than slightly exaggerated for Gothic effect. The period during which you watch Alec develop those mannerisms of behavior is an exhilarating period for the director. And it's one in which I think you learn as a director to know your role as somebody who just sits back and watches and provides the space in which the actor can do his own work. This, I keep saying to students, is one of the hardest things for the director, particularly the young director, to learn, which is to watch, to listen, and to keep your mouth shut, to provide the support without intruding upon the space that the actor needs to work in.
Yes, indeed.
Bye-bye, Mrs. Love. Bye-bye, Mrs. Wilberforce. Thanks for the nice tea and everything.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
What is that Norrin playing at?
It's stuck in the door. The case is...
We'll ring the bell, Brains. Don't just stand there. Thank you.
I don't recall him saying very much to me as an actor. I guess it's because he felt I was the epitome of evil.